right. Big crowd. Okay, start class. My mantra, you're watching, so I just want to tell you, send me the words to that song. He's watching. Immediately after class. Jaya Radha Madhova Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Nanabalapa Yidibadu Hagute Gopi Janabalapa Yidibadu Hagute Yasodanandana Brajajana Randavuna Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tera Vanachate Yamuna Tera Vanachate Jai Radha Madhava Kunya Bhagavate Jai Radha Madhava Kunya Bhagavate Gopi Dana Manava Ire Badadhare Gopi Dana Manava Ire Badadhare Yere Vadadati Solanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachate Yamuna Tera Vanachate Jai Hurad Umadava Kunya Bhagavate Jai Radho Madhava Kunya Bhagavate Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravitakacharya, also Tedas into Shimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya, Srila Hridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha, Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radhakrishna Gopinath Sai Makunda, Radhakunda, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Maturadam Ki Jai, Jagannatha Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Srimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai, Samveda Bhakta, Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda, Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarni. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, 48th Chapter, Text 11. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Duradyang Samaraja Vishnum Sarveshvareshvaram Yo Vrinite Mano Grayang Asatvat Akumanishi Asao Durarjam Samaraja Vishnum Sarveshvareshvaram Yo Vrinite Manograyam Asatvad Kumanishyasa Durajam Samaraja Vishnum Sarveshvareshvaram Yo Vrinite Manograyam Asatvat Kumanishyasa Durajam Samaraja Vishnum Sarveshvareshvaram Yo Vrinite Manograyam Asatvat Kumanishyasa Durarajam, rarely worshipped. Samaraja, fully worshipping. Vishnu, Lord Vishnu. Sarva, of all. Ishvara, controllers. Ishvaram, the supreme controller. Ya, who? Vinite, chooses as a benediction. Mana, to the mind. Grayam, that which is accessible, namely sense gratification. Asatvat, because of its insignificance. Kumanishi, unintelligent. Asau, that person. Translation, Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Lord of all lords, is ordinarily difficult to approach. One who has properly worshipped him and then chooses the benediction of mundane sense gratification is certainly of poor intelligence, for he is satisfied with an insignificant result. We can repeat. Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Lord of all lords, is ordinarily difficult to approach. One who has properly worshipped him and then chooses the benediction of mundane sense gratification is certainly of poor intelligence, for he is satisfied with an insignificant result. So, purport by the followers of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, it is clear from the commentaries of the Acharyas that the story of Trivakra is to be understood on two levels. On the one hand, she is understood to be a liberated soul directly associating with the Lord and participating in his pastimes. On the other hand, her conduct is clearly meant to teach a lesson about what not to do in relation with Lord Sri Krishna. Since all the Lord's pastimes are not only blissful, but also didactic. Didactic means they teach you something. You know, it's not just like, oh, this is a wonderful pastime, but there's something to be learned. Application. You know, the actual word is application. You can apply in your own life. There is no real contradiction in this pastime, since Trivakra's purity and her bad example take place on two distinct levels. Arjuna is also considered a pure devotee, yet by initially disobeying Krishna's instruction to fight, he also showed an example of what not to do. However, such bad examples always have happy endings in the blissful association of the absolute truth, Sri Krishna. That's good. Bad examples have blissful endings. That's actually very encouraging to me. So let me read Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary and the others, and then we'll speak a little bit. Okay. Hare Krishna. In relation to this incident, I'm deliberately holding the book up because my chiropractor told me to do this. Because it's actually really important not to look at something down like that. I'm following instruction of the authority. So in relation to this incident, this verse gives instruction to those persons worshiping the Lord in the role of a lover. That person who in worshiping Krishna prays for material happiness is a fool. So, you know, externally it appeared that Kubja, she was actually praying to Krishna to satisfy her senses. This is, you know, external. And so that's the bad example, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Krishna is all-pervading, perfect Swayam Bhagavan, Vishnu, and is the source of appearance for the Purusha avatars such as Mahavishnu, Sarveshvareshwaram. Another version has Sarva Varesham, the person who can award all benedictions, including liberation and bhakti. Therefore, he is difficult to attain. In spite of this, and that's like the Nectar Devotion statement, pure devotional service is rarely attained. So, in spite of this, reason it's rarely attained, according to Rupa Goswami, is because it's the only means of what? Controlling Krishna. Because when you become a pure devotee, you control Krishna. That's why you have to be a pure devotee to be able to control Krishna. In spite of this, if one worships him intensely, asam aradhya, and prays for objects pleasing to himself, mano grahyam, that person is of lowest intelligence because of accepting most insignificant, temporary, useless objects, sattvat. The intelligent person, such as Kubja, will pray for the Supreme Lord endowed with bliss that surpasses the words and mind. And so here's a verse from the Vishnu Purana. Yapriti avivekanam vishayeshvanapayanhi tvam manusmarata same vidayanma pasarpatu. Interesting verse. As the unintelligent person is strongly attracted, some of the editing here, should be strongly attracted to material objects, may remembrance of you be strong so as to never leave my heart. That's from the Vishnu Purana. Wow. What a prayer. Let me repeat that again. Beautiful prayer. As the unintelligent person is strongly attached to material objects, may remembrance of you be strong so that as to never leave my heart. Wow. So, in Sanatana Goswami, after finishing the story of Kubja, in order to dispel criticism because Kubja appeared to be a materialistic woman, the Lord is praised. Krishna is all-pervading, perfect Swayam Bhagavan Vishnu, and is the source of appearance for the Purusha avatars such as Mahavishnu, Sarveshwaram, another version, same thing. I'm just skipping over part of this. Same thing, basically. So, and then, since Kubja did not have the same prema as the gopis, this is what I want to talk about, and lacked a similar wealth of happiness, she is considered less than the gopis, though her desire was fulfilled. She was less fortunate. Though she did attain direct association with the Lord, with the attainment of full prema as the result of her bhakti, she lacked their type of happiness because of difference in the bhava. Just as some persons, even seeing the Lord, do not experience full happiness. That is clear from the appearance of misery of persons like the wrestlers in Kamsa's arena. Of course, that particular story, just to reiterate, that when Krishna entered the arena, wrestling arena, all the living entities there saw him in a different way, according to their relationship with him. Now let's go back to the verse. All right. Again, I'll recite the verse. Durajam samaradja Vishnum sarveshvareshram yon vrinite manograyam asatvat kumanishasau. So, Om Gana Chimadandasha Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmeditam Yena Tasmai Shi Gurave Namaha. So, actually, the Bhagavatam is actually replete with these bad examples of people who approach Krishna for the wrong reason, even when they see Krishna. And one example that comes to mind, not from the 10th canto, is the story of Markandeya Rishi. You know, Markandeya Rishi, he was performing austerity, devotional service. And then what happened? Krishna said, what do you want? Appeared before him. And he said, I want to understand Maya. And Krishna was thinking, actually, it's described in the verse. Krishna looked at him ruefully, basically. What is he asking for? It's just like, you see Krishna. Okay, want to understand Maya. Okay, here you go. And he gave him an experience. So that was an example of, unintelligent desire, but it ends up well. So what happens is that all of a sudden, he discovers he's in the ocean of devastation. And he's swimming. Fortunately, he learned how to swim. And he's all these big fish are coming around, and it's, oh my God, it's frightening. And then all of a sudden, after, not all of a sudden, it took a long time. He kind of sees this island, and on the island there's a banyan tree, and there's a little baby kid in the banyan tree. A little kid. He approaches the little kid, and the kid breathes in, and he becomes sucked into the kid's body. And then he sees the universe as it was before, and he comes out. So after this, he basically learns his lesson. But you don't ask Krishna for something else other than that. And other examples, too, was just one more example of that, and then I'll get on to the topic I wanted to talk about, was that you have, okay, so before the Battle of Kurukshetra, there was going to be a discussion who would have Krishna, and Krishna wasn't going to fight, and who would have the Narayana army, Krishna's army. Okay. So, you know the story that Krishna said, all right, the first person who I see when I wake up, that person will have the choice. So Krishna's resting, yoga nidra. And Arjuna, actually Duryodhana comes first, and Duryodhana sits right by the head. And Arjuna, he sits by the feet. And so Krishna opens his eyes and he sees Arjuna. He says, oh, Arjuna, you can ask anything you want. And of course, Arjuna wants Krishna. And Duryodhana is in complete ecstasy. Not complete ecstasy. But, he's happy, materially happy. Wow. Who needs Krishna if he's not going to fight? Useless. Isn't it? And then he said, I got Krishna's army. So it's like us too, we're asking Krishna for so many things. We don't understand. We just have Krishna, we'll be happy. Isn't it? That's all we need. Because if one has Krishna, Yasmin Vigate Sarvameva Vigatam Bhavati. One knows Krishna, one knows everything. One has Krishna, one has everything. Ham Sarvasya Prabhu Matak Sarvam Bhavartate. So, the interesting thing is, okay, I gave some examples. So the interesting thing is that Krishna actually loves everybody. That's why Krishna is hankering for us to come back to the spiritual world. But the difference is when you have Krishna and the gopis, and the Krishna and the residents of Vrindavan, Krishna is always thinking on how to please them. And they are there with Krishna constantly. Even if Krishna disappears from them, they're still with Krishna. Whereas, if you're not completely pure, you may see Krishna for an instant, like Kubja did. And Kubja, what? She didn't see. There's no mention of Kubja again in the whole Bhagavatam. There's no mention. And in this regard, I wanted to read one verse that actually is not about Kubja, but it's about Narada Muni. And let me get to this verse. That Narada Muni, of course, before he was Narada Muni, there's that whole story. Here's the verse. And he got the association of the sages, took initiation from the sages during the 4 months of the rainy season, got prashadam remnants from the sages. And then after that, a very unfortunate thing happened to him, or maybe a fortunate thing. His mother passed away. He's only like 5 or 6 years old. And so he started going through the forest, depending on Krishna, and chanting the mantra that he'd been taught by the sages. And then doing this, he was meditating on the Lord in the heart, and all of a sudden the form of the Lord in the heart disappeared, and he opened his eyes, and he saw the Lord what? Externally. And wow. And then the Lord disappeared. It's called a spurti, isn't it? I mean, I think most of us get these spurtis, and not necessarily that we see Krishna in such a clear fashion, but when we first come to Krishna consciousness, or we're very enthusiastic, or we're attending or listening to it. I had that experience. Actually, I'll just explain, not being proud. I had that experience this morning. I was listening to a class of Prabhupada, given by Prabhupada, not a class of Prabhupada. Watch my English. So Prabhupada was giving a class, and he was talking about the love of the residents of Vrindavan, which I'm going to read about in a second after I start or finish with a story about Narada Muni. And so, wow, I had a glimpse. Krishna gave me a glimpse. Wow, that's what it means to be in Vrindavan. I didn't know that before. My whole experience this morning, wake up my normal passionate state. Hare Krishna, getting my rounds done. Worried about the world, worried about what? Worried about the war in Israel, worried in Gaza. And then I hear from Prabhupada, it's just like, wow, there's the connection. So one can actually have, by the mercy of a pure devotee, even a rascal like me, can have like a brief vision, isn't it? I think probably every one of us, we wouldn't be here unless we had experienced something like that. Something like a coming attraction, a spurti. So anyway, so Narada had the spurti, and a really better one than I've had. But Krishna just appeared before him, and then he couldn't find Krishna over there, and he was really upset. And so, in the this is the first canto, 6th chapter, text 21. Krishna responds to him. He hears Krishna's voice. I mean, that's pretty nice too. I wouldn't complain about that. So 1:6:21. The Lord says, "O Narada," the Lord said, "I regret." Listen to this. I regret. So Krishna's regretting. It's interesting. It's not that he's just saying, Narada Muni, you're not going to see me again. He says, I regret. Interesting, isn't it? Nomenclature. I regret that during this lifetime, you will not be able to see me anymore. Oh my God. But here's the kicker, as they say. Those who are incomplete in service and who are not completely free from all material taints can hardly see me. It's a very high standard, isn't it? Very, very high. We're going to talk about that high standard in a second. So in the purport to this verse, Prabhupada comments, the personality of God is described in the Bhagavad Gita as the most pure, the supreme, and the absolute truth. There's no trace of tinge of materiality in his person. And thus one who has the slightest tinge. You know what a tinge is? A tinge is just like, one molecule. I've been studying organic chemistry recently. Sorry about that. And, if you have one little bit of contamination, then you can't make proteins. And that means even a few molecules or one molecule, you have to have an absolutely pure thing, which makes it impossible for life to have come about by chance. Because it ain't going to happen that you have absolute purity by chance in this world, isn't it? It's just impossible. You don't even have material purity. Even, what is it? Ivory soap is what? 99.99% pure. You don't have material purity, you don't have spiritual purity. So it's just a tinge of material affection. I mean, that's such a high standard. That's why we have the need for His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada didn't have a tinge, or doesn't have a tinge. Beginning of devotional service starts from the point where one is freed from at least two forms of the material modes, namely the mode of passion and the mode of ignorance. So many of us are attached to the mode of goodness. Happens. I mean, just like this morning. Another example of my own life. This morning I was walking to the temple and looked up in the sky. You could see all the stars in the sky. I said, oh, how beautiful. And then I remembered, oh, Krishna. So actually, they're coming. Anyway, because I heard from Prabhupada, I started to remember Krishna. Then, if one is Krishna conscious, even if you see, what to speak of the stars, I was thinking this morning, even if you look at the stones on the road, you'll think of Krishna because it belongs to Krishna, right? So then one is in the remaining mode of nature, goodness. So that happens, you really like goodness and stuff like that. Like the stars in the sky, and it's fresh this morning, no pollution. Wow, the sky is clear, and I'm going to India. The result is exhibited by the signs of being freed from kama, lust, and lobha, covetousness. That is to say, one must be free from the desires of sense gratification, avarice for sense gratification. This is a mode of goodness. And to be completely freed from material tinges is to become free from the mode of goodness also. Wow. In other words, selfishness. All three modes are modes of selfishness, different ways of trying to enjoy yourself. Whereas the forest is a materially good habitation. A neophyte devotee is always recommended to worship the deity, the Lord, rather than go into the forest to search out the Lord. Devotional service begins from the process of archana, which is better than going out in the forest. The reason we do archana, again, Krishna is the enjoyer of archana, not us. Narada Muni does not go into the forest, although we can turn every place into Vaikuntha by his presence only. Right now that he's a pure devotee. He travels from one planet to another, convert men, demigods. So anyway, there's more to the purport. It's a beautiful purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. So I just wanted also to make reference to, actually, something that Prabhupada talked about in relationship to the song that we chant every morning, Jai Radha Madhava. This is actually the excerpt from the class I heard this morning. So I just looked it up on my little computer and wanted to quote it. I was inspired after hearing this. So this is pure devotional service. Prabhupada said, the enjoyer is Krishna. Enjoyer is Krishna. He repeats it two times. Just like Krishna in Vrindavan, as we sung this song, Jai Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. He is enjoying in Vrindavan. His only feature is, that is the real picture of God, simply enjoying. So let me repeat that. Prabhupada says, Krishna's the real picture of God, simply enjoying. And then Prabhupada, of course, quotes from the Bhagavad Gita, 529, Bhaktaram Jagatapasam, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, where Krishna says, I am the enjoyer, the Lord of all the worlds, Suhridam Sarvabhutanam, the friend of all living entities, and one who understands that this can actually be Krishna conscious, peaceful. This is the real picture of God. The Vrindavan Leela of Krishna is the perfect presentation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Again, he's simply enjoying. So again, the stress is Krishna, we're supposed to give Krishna enjoyment. Now by hearing this, like I said, by hearing the words of a pure devotee, somehow or he gets, a little bit of insight into Krishna, isn't it? In Krishna's nature. And so I was listening to this as I was doing my deity worship. It was just really blissful. Whoops. Wait, here, and here's the, wow. Hold on a second. I left it. Yeah, simply enjoy. And all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, this is the Vrindavan mood, as contrasting with outside of Vrindavan. The gopis, the cowherd boys, Maharaj Nanda Yashoda, everyone is simply anxious. Is the word anxious? Anxiety, anxious. Not just thinking how to make Krishna happy, anxious, running here and there, how to make Krishna happy. They have no other business. So this is the contrasting, with Kubja's at least manifestation, so we can understand the difference and the price for going to Vrindavan. Vishayachi Chadiya Kabi Shuddha Habimana Kabi Hama, isn't it? Hey Rabo Sri Vrindavan, the same thing. Vishaya Chadiya Kabi Shuddha, completely pure, not a tinge. They have no other business. And Prabhupada repeats himself again. When you repeat yourself like that, that means it's something important. The inhabitants of Vrindavan have no other business other than satisfy Krishna. And listen to this. Krishna has no other business. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. He's acting as the little son of Yashoda, and his only business is how to please the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So it's like this, yes, we understand yayatamam prapachate tam sataiva bhajamaham mama vartmano vartate manusha partha sarvasha. Krishna reciprocates accordingly to how people approach him. So this is the mood of Vrindavan, that Krishna's only business is how to please. So what gives Krishna pleasure is pleasing his pure devotees. And what gives the pure devotees pleasure is pleasing Krishna and Radharani. So this is the definition of love right there. This is the Yatma Savai Pumsam Paradamra Yatat Bhakti Hoksajay Ahaitaki Apretita Yatma Supersedite. That's this is like a purport of this verse in the Bhagavatam. Savai Pumsam Paradamra, the topmost Dharma. Savai Pumso Paradamra Yato Bhakti Hoksajay, to perform bhakti to Krishna. Ahaitaki, where there's no cause, hetu, apratiyata, in every circumstance, it goes on regardless. It's never stopped. And then Prabhupada continues. I mean, this actually, when Prabhupada gave this class, you could actually see Vrindavan. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana and Yamuna Tiravanachari. And he's wandering in the forest of Vrindavan on the bank of the Yamuna. This is the actual picture of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And actually, to sum this up, I actually wanted to read the word by word synonyms of Jai Radha Madhava, written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because we were chanting this song every morning. So Jai, of course, is all glorious too. Radha Madhava, Radha and the Lord of sweetness. That's Madhava, Krishna. Kunja Bihari, he's enjoying loving pastimes in the groves of Vrindavan. Gopi Jana Vallabha, he's the lover of the coward maidens of Braja. Giri Bharadhari. And at the class I was listening to this morning, also Prabhupada said, that in order to prove that he was God, Krishna not only had his pastimes with the gopis, but he also lifted Govardhan Hill. For those who had any doubts about him, thinking that he's just a young boy having illicit affairs with someone, he lifted Govardhan Hill with the pinky of his left hand. The holder. So in other words, the interesting thing is you have Kunja Bihari, and then right after that, Gopi Jana Vallabha, of course, and then Giribharadhari. So it's like a contrast there, isn't it? If you think about it, it's a contrast that he's loving the girls, and then he picks up Govardhan Hill. You have any doubts about it? He's God. Established his ontological position. And then Yashoda Nandana, beloved son of Mother Yashoda, and then Braja Jana Ranjana, which means the delighter of the inhabitants of Braj. Always, in other words, always trying to please the inhabitants of Braj. And Yamuna Tira Vanachari wanders in the forest on the banks of Yamuna. And the full translation: Krishna is the lover of Radha. He displays many amorous pastimes in the groves of Vrindavan. Whoops, getting too ecstatic. He is the lover of the coward maidens of Braj, the holder of the great hill named Govardhan, the beloved Mother Yashoda, and delighter of uh, of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. He wanders in the forest. So Prabhupada, in two places, one of them happened to be the class that I was listening to. It was a class in Gorakhpur in India. Prabhupada fell into a trance when he was chanting this song. So the song is actually like a way to enter, a doorway, a portal to enter into Vrindavan. And we sing it every morning, but we're not really attentive to the meaning of this song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. But it's a portal, and it's the mood of Vrindavan. So in Alaban Gorakhpur, he chanted the first two lines, Jai Radhamadhava Kunjbe, Gopi Janabalaba, Giridhara Badadhari. And then Prabhupada said, this song is a picture of Vrindavan. Everything is there, Srimati Radharani, Vrindavan, Govardhan, Yashoda, and all the coward boys. And finally, one final thing in class. Krishna cares for everyone, as I mentioned before. As we know, Hey Krishna Karnana Sindhu, Dinu Bandhu, Jagapate, Gopesha, Gopika, Kanta, Radhakanta the most day. But as far as the residents of Vrindavan are concerned, he never leaves them. They're never devoid of his association. So we're contrasting that with Kubja's situation. And of course, Kubja's a pure devotee. It's an example. We're not criticizing her. But the residents of Vrindavan, Krishna is always with them. Even in aprakata pastimes, Krishna is there. So, on that happy note, we got 2 minutes left of class. Any questions or comments? Yes. Quick. Yeah. 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 Well, that's not sense gratification because you're dovetailing your natural talents and what you're inclined to do in the service of Krishna. But let's say I was inclined, well, I am inclined to get into technology, and I get into technology, just enjoying things, manipulating the material nature, and no connection with Krishna, no trying to help people, then that's mundane. Or if I just go to the forest and just look at the trees and forget about Krishna. Oh, beautiful tree, the birds and the bees and the honey and the tweet tweet. Then that's a different thing. But if I'm seeing Krishna and appreciating Krishna, I mean, like I mentioned this morning when I saw the sky and I just appreciated how beautiful the stars were, that's the mode of goodness. But then I pulled myself back through intelligence. No. How great Krishna, how wonderful Krishna. He's an artist. He's created these things. Then it becomes devotional service. Gopi, you had a question? Quick, go ahead. Mm. Yeah. You wanted to find out what verse it was? Wait, we have to greet the deities. It's the Narada story from the Bhagavatam. I was skipping over so many things. 1621, yeah. 1621. The verse about Narada was in the 6th chapter of first canto. So, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. All glories to Prabhupada.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvanta Maravindanalaya Taksham Marhamatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Bhagom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Andani Yasa Sakalem Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Dipan Dikayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam
Tamaham Bhajami. Namaham Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Mudalai Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Samaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurvani Vacha Nagini Visesh Shunyavare Vashachare Sacharane Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Nana Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya, Radha Kumana Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gorakyanana Rana Gorakyanana Ragate. Jaya Radha Gorakyanana Rana Gorakyanana Ragate. Jaya Radha Hey, Radhe, 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 hey. Radhe, hey, Radhe, 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 hey. Jaya Sri Ragat Hey Jai Om Vishnupad.
Jai.